Great, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm Mayor Kirk Watson, and you usually hear from me on this topic sometime around the beginning of June. In fact, we were planning on holding a press conference to talk about heat safety in a few weeks, and then we got this week's forecast, and so that's why we're here. As you're already experiencing today, and will experience even more acutely tomorrow, summer has hit Austin and Travis County. Summer is here. We went from cool evenings and beautiful spring days to record-breaking heat literally overnight. Today, we're expected to hit 102 degrees. Tomorrow could be 105 degrees. And the 7-day forecast calls for a string of triple-digit days. This is the type of heat we generally don't start seeing until July. It's unwelcome and it's unwanted, but it's here. And it's a stark reminder that we need to be prepared for what the summer's going to bring. Heat can be deadly, even in places like Central Texas where we're used to our fair share of the heat. And as this week is indicating, climate change is causing more extreme heat and an increased trend in higher summer temperatures, with more frequent and intense heat waves. With summer heat already beginning to impact Central Texas, we want our community members to prepare themselves to be in the heat by taking precautions. Those precautions include pre-hydrate in the days and hours leading up to being in the heat. Wear sunscreen. Continue to hydrate while you're in the heat. Wear light-colored, loose-fitting clothing and a hat. Take frequent breaks. Limit activities to early morning or the evening. Other important things to keep in mind is look before you lock. Look before you lock your vehicle. What we mean by that is heat stroke is the leading cause of non-collision vehicle deaths in children. Vehicles can heat up very quickly, even on mildly warm days. So, what is recommended is put something you need in your back seat, like a purse or your cell phone, so you remember to check and look in the back seat and you don't leave a child in the car, even for a short period of time. Already, city facilities, including branches of the Austin Public Library and the Parks and Recreation's rec centers, are being used as cooling centers. And as the summer conditions continue, and when conditions warrant, we'll extend those hours as we've done in the past. You can review a current list of cooling centers, the locations, and the hours of operation at austintexas.gov/alerts. austintexas.gov/alerts. As an employer, the City of Austin is also taking care of our staff members by ensuring that anyone working outdoors without air conditioning or ventilation takes scheduled breaks in cool areas, and that we provide plenty of cool water to drink on site. We're also making sure that our fleet vehicles, especially ones like trucks used by Austin Resource Recovery, where workers spend all day on those trucks, have working air conditioning systems. I'm joined today by Travis County Judge Andy Brown and emergency management representatives from both the City of Austin and Travis County, who will share more information about our preparation for this summer season. Also joining us today is the Austin Travis County EMS Chief of Staff, Chief Wes Hopkins, to talk about health risks we need to be aware of. And we also have our Homeless Strategy Officer, David Gray, who will share what we're doing to protect the very vulnerable population from this heat. With that, I ask Judge Brown to come up to the podium.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you. Mayor Watson, that was such a great point about not forgetting kids in the backseat, pets in the backseat, but kids in particular. I know new parents can be a little bit sleep deprived, and that's such a great point that I just wanted to underscore that. And Chief, I don't know how long it takes. It just takes a few minutes for a car to heat up to a point where it could severely hurt or kill a child. So thank you, Mayor, for saying that. I want to thank everybody for being here. We're in the dangerous heat season time a lot early, just like the mayor said. We're going to see some record-breaking temperatures exceeding all-time highs in May, most likely. Regions of South Texas, not that far away from here, in the same state, are seeing temperatures as hot as the deadly temperatures in the Sahara Desert. Out of season days like this are our new normal. Climate change is catching up to us. Factors like our increasing fossil fuel emissions and lack of green investments in energy productions across the United States and across the globe will mean more of this. Unless governments in the U.S. and across the world can come together on lower emissions and invest in the future of our planet, there's so much more of this to come. If you're working outside this week, the kind of heat is this early in the year is really risky. People just aren't used to it yet, which makes everybody more at risk of heat-related illnesses. These are preventable illnesses. Take the advice the mayor said seriously. Drink plenty of water throughout the day. Take breaks. Stay in the shade or cooler areas if you can when taking those breaks. And watch out for your coworkers, your neighbors, your fellow employees. Make sure that if somebody looks weak, dizzy, or confused, they get the help they need. Take action fast. At home, make sure that your fans and AC are working well. It might be a little too late to get an appointment from someone to come fix them at this point, but check on those things as soon as you can. You can do things also like covering your blinds, keeping your drapes closed that let in afternoon sun to keep it a little bit cooler in your house. Make sure you have weather stripping to block gaps in the doors to keep the cool air in, the hot air out. And again, check on your neighbors. They might not be able to take those same steps that you can, so see if you can help out. They're open during normal work hours, the hottest parts of the day, so if you need a place to cool off, please stop by and feel free to hang out there. You can also refill your water and charge your phone if you need to. So just want to close by saying that heat is a high risk. It's a preventable risk. The results of heat are a preventable risk. We can get through it if we do the things like trying to stay cool, stay hydrated, watch out for one another, and make sure that you're preventing heat-related illnesses before they happen. I want to thank our first responders, our public health workers, and local emergency teams who are standing by and ready to help during this heat wave. And the Spanish y'all heard earlier was a lot better, but I'm going to give a little bit of a shot right now. Una peligrosa ola de calor ya está aquí. Los pronósticos indican una alta probabilidad de temperaturas récord, posiblemente superando las máximas históricas de mayo. Y regiones del sur de Texas podrían ver temperaturas tan altas como las mortales temperaturas del desierto del Sahara. Días fuera de temporada como este son nuestra nueva normalidad. La crisis climática se está extendiendo rápidamente. Factores como el aumento de las emisiones de combustibles fósiles provocarán que esto se agrave. Si hace demasiado calor en casa o si necesita un espacio fresco y seguro, los centros comunitarios del condado de Travis están abiertos en horario laboral habitual como centros de enfriamiento. Nuestros centros comunitarios se encuentran en Del Valle, Manor, Jonestown, Oak Hill, Pflugerville y el centro de Austin. Puede entrar, refrescarse con el aire acondicionado, rellenar su botella de agua y cargar su teléfono. All right, Mayor, who's next? All right.
So I'll follow that. My name is Jim Rydick. I'm the Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management here in the city of Austin. And I can tell you that our mission in emergency management is to study emergencies and disasters that have happened elsewhere and in the past. So the comments and the advice that was given by the mayor and the judge are spot on. There are things that we can do to prevent heat illness and heat-related death. Stay hydrated. Make sure you wear sunscreen, especially if you're follically challenged, and limit your time or activities outdoors. If you have to be out and about, know that there are cooling sites out there, and they're available at austintexas.gov/alerts. With a tip of the hat to Dr. Walks of Public Health, there's a direct correlation between excessive heat and drownings, if you can imagine. Folks wanting to cool off in the pools. So make sure that if you're going to be at a pool, or whether it's in your yard or at Martin Springs, wherever, just be safe. Make sure you have a partner with you, and just take precautions. If it's in your backyard, don't leave standing water, because that attracts mosquitoes and all the things that mosquitoes will bring. A couple more things to consider is knowing the signs of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. I know Chief Hopkins is going to speak more about that. And if it's too hot for you, it's too hot for your pets. So make sure that they stay hydrated and they stay indoors as much as possible so they can get respite from this heat. And as the judge said, check on your neighbors. Because again, we know from so many previous disasters, there are some folks who aren't going to seek help. They are not going to want to be a burden on anyone else. So let's check on them, and by doing so, you may very well save a life. Lastly, because of the importance of this silent killer, there will be a Warren Central message text alert after this conference. And it is to let folks know, one of the ways that we will contact you, and two, it's a reminder that we are dealing with this silent threat. If you don't register for WarrenCentralTexas.org, then we can't contact you and we can't alert you. So we understand that there's a significant portion of the population that's not registered for the system. Please do so, because that is our way of contacting you, letting you know whether it's a heat-related issue or anything. That's how we're able to get those notifications to you. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my friend and counterpart with Travis County Emergency Management, Eric Carter.
And I will, before I give my message, Jim, you hit it right on the top when you talk about checking on your neighbors. That's really critical, especially those who are vulnerable. I can't emphasize that enough. Most of us are able to respond and manage ourselves in the heat, right? But sometimes our neighbors may be elderly, they're shut-ins, and they can't. That's where being a good neighbor, being a good family member, it's important to keep that at top of mind. So I'm Eric Carter. I'm the Chief Emergency Management Coordinator for Travis County. A few messages for you today. You'll hear this often. You've already heard it, but the message cannot be repeated enough. Never leave children or pets in a parked car, not even for a minute. You think it's a minute. It's not. It's hot. Temperatures inside a vehicle can rise to deadly levels in just minutes, so please, please, please look before you lock your car. Outdoor activities. If you're outdoors for fun, sports, or exercise, try to move your activity to the early morning or evening hours. Stay in the shade as much as you can. Drink water regularly. Stay hydrated. Wear light-colored, loose-fitting clothing so that your body's able to breathe, sweat appropriately, of course. And clothes. Everybody. Texas, we're used to hot days. We don't constantly think of being in the heat as an emergency. Our point is to bring attention to that hazard, right? So we're going to have an extreme heat day. There are certain groups of folks who may be vulnerable. You want to be sensitive to that so that you can act appropriately, keep people safe. Infants and young children, older adults, people with chronic illnesses, okay? And those without access to air conditioning. Please check in on those around you, those you love, your friends. A quick phone call or visit can save a life. So everybody is going to be hot over the next few days. Let's all stay safe. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Austin, Travis County EMS. What?
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Wes Hopkins, and I'm the Chief of Staff for Austin Travis County Emergency Medical Services. This is the earliest that we've seen triple-digit heats in approximately 40 years. Everyone is at risk for a heat-related emergency, especially during the first part of these intense summer days. Our bodies just haven't acclimated to the heat just yet. You know, it's more important than ever now to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your loved ones, and that goes to the high-risk populations with complex chronic medical conditions, the very young, the very old, those who are pregnant are especially prone to heat-related illnesses. That not only affects the mom, but can affect the unborn child as well. Check on loved ones, especially your elderly neighbors. You know, everyone needs to take a second to learn about heat-related emergencies, and so we're going to walk through those three categories. There's heat cramps, there's heat exhaustion, and there's heat stroke. Heat cramps are your body's first way of telling you that something's going on when you're working out in the heat. It includes muscle cramps, abdominal cramps. The first thing you want to do is to stop that activity, rehydrate, and move into the shade. Heat cramps very quickly turn into heat exhaustion, and heat exhaustion is the vast majority of the heat-related illnesses that we see. Those symptoms for review include cool, pale, clammy skin, weakness, dizziness, heavy sweating, nausea, vomiting, and that fast, weak pulse that you'll feel sometimes when you're working in the heat. If someone is experiencing heat exhaustion, they should move into the shade or air conditioning and rehydrate with water immediately. Again, heat exhaustion can turn into heat stroke, even more quickly, and heat stroke is a time-sensitive, life-threatening medical emergency. Lethargy, loss of consciousness, confusion, hot red skin. You may start out being sweaty, but when you're working in the heat and you dry up and you're not sweating, high indication of suspicion that you're going to have a heat stroke. Rapid and strong pulse and a body temperature of 103 or above. If someone is experiencing heat stroke, please move them into the shade and call 911 immediately. Heat-related illnesses actually can be reversed if they're treated in a timely manner. For our paramedics, heat-related illnesses are on the top of their mind during these summer months. If you think or someone you're with is experiencing a heat-related illness, please let us know by calling 911. The men and women of Austin Travis County EMS are out there working in the heat too. And it's not easy work out in the heat, but they do it for the good of the community. But help us by doing your part to be cognizant of heat-related illnesses. Especially for your outdoor workers, especially cautious as strenuous activity working in the elements increases. Managers of outdoor workers should encourage frequent shade breaks and provide hydration, water, and sports drinks. And just to reiterate, what the mayor mentioned, if you're going to spend time in the heat, make sure you prepare your body before you go out by pre-hydrating before you go outside, sunscreen, SPF of at least 30, light, loose-fitting clothing, hats. Please drink lots of water, not only when you're outdoors, but once you come back inside, and take frequent breaks. If possible, limit outdoors activities to those early mornings or those late evenings. Our hope is that we review these signs and symptoms of heat-related illnesses, that it'll reduce the impact on our community and the 911 system. Thank you again for having me, and I'm going to pass it off to the homeless strategy officer, Mr. Gray.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's try this one more time. Good afternoon, everybody. All right, there we go. The people who know me know I like a good call and response, Jim. So thank you. I appreciate you, my brother. I'm David Gray. I have the pleasure of serving this community as the homeless strategy officer for the city of Austin. Our office constantly monitors weather. We know that the community that we're charged with serving is extremely vulnerable to everything that comes with living in Central Texas, whether we're talking about floods or cold, and in this case, heat. As my colleagues have mentioned, this week's temperatures are forecasted in a way that will pose serious life and safety risks, especially to those who are living unhoused. That's why our office has already reached out to our homeless population through the text alert system that we launched 2 years ago. That system now reaches close to 4,000 people experiencing homelessness, as well as case managers, volunteers, and community organizations who go out into encampments. We want to make sure that those individuals have access to the same critical guidance that families at home and people who are watching this press conference receive. We're also working with outreach teams to make sure that they have access to vital resources and supplies, especially as they go out into encampments and engage with people. Earlier this week, we ordered over 4,000 bottles of water for our street outreach teams and our community partners to bring with them into encampments to make sure that people have access to resources to stay hydrated. We're also providing people in the encampments with information on cooling centers and where they can go to access clean drinking water. We also earlier today had a great call with our partners in the Parks and Recreation Department, as well as with the Austin Public Library, to ensure that those staff and those facilities have what they need to take care of people who are coming out of encampments and using those centers. Information on those centers is available on our website, austintexas.gov/homelessness. Oftentimes, recreation centers and libraries are open until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, meaning folks can seek refuge there during the hottest part of the day. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the organizations who partner with our office to engage with our vulnerable residents, and we look forward to getting through this heat wave together. With that, I'll return the microphone to our mayor, Mayor Kirk Watson.
Thank you, sir. Couple of things out of that. One, don't leave anyone in the car. 2, check on your neighbors. 3, prepare yourself for the heat. This is an early time for this to be happening, but prepare yourself. Don't just look at the calendar and act like it's going to be a cool May. And with that, we'll answer a couple of questions. Or not. Everybody's hot, so yeah, back here. Sure.
Do y'all have best practices to share for people walking their dogs?
Sure. You want to do that, or?
Certainly, I'm happy to, or if you got good.
I talk about when I walk my dog. It's a small black dog, and whenever I get to the pavement part, I pick it up because in days like this, it is too hot for its little paws to hit the pavement. But
And I'll say a couple things. You got it.
Yes, sir.
But I'll say a couple things. One is animals react to the heat not exactly the way humans do, but they react to the heat as well. So the things you do to try to make sure you're okay, you need to do with your animals as well. Pre-hydrate. Make sure that they're able to hydrate. If it's an animal that you keep in the outdoors, make sure that they're able to hydrate. Make sure they have access to shade, the same way we tell people to make sure that we have access to shade. And as the judge just pointed out, keep in mind that things that we may not, because we're wearing shoes, it may not be hot on our feet, but those sidewalks and the streets get very hot in the sun. They cook too. So the animals can suffer from that as well. So pay attention to that in addition. And then also I would suggest part of the reminding yourself by putting a purse or a cell phone or something that you're going to want in the back seat. Never ever leave an animal in a locked car, because the heat that we're talking about for a small child, that heat can be damaging to an animal as well. You want to add anything?
Yes, sir. One of the things we see on the hike and bike trail is people out there exercising, and they do it in the middle of the day with their animals. And so if you go to work and they stay indoors all days, again, they're not heat acclimated either. And so especially as we get into the pavement and the sidewalks, if you can't take the back of your arm and put it on the pavement without hurting your arm, then that same is going to be true for the paws on any kind of animal that you're out there walking. And then definitely don't leave pets unattended. Even if you crack the window, even if your car is running, something happens to that car and the car turns off, then again, you have an animal in a car with no air conditioning. And we're talking a matter of minutes, less than 5, more like 3. That temperature starts rising, and those animals get in a bad way very quickly. So I would caution people to just be cognizant of that.
Thank you for asking that question, because we should have talked about that earlier. Betty, I thought your hand went up.
It didn't.
Oh, well, it always does, so it's just a reaction from mine.
All right, so this is a little off base, but we talk about the urban heat islands, and especially like Runberg and Mar and these places that don't have the trees that they need to bring the temperature down several degrees if they had them. Is any program ongoing with the city to try to address that?
Well, certainly, through several budget cycles, but we've done a couple of things. One is we've looked, for example, in the last budget cycle, we looked at specific shading mechanisms for our parks and places like that, so that we make sure that there's more opportunity for shade. And yes, we have had a number of programs to talk about how we can get more trees, but typically the tree canopy requires a mature tree canopy. And so in some places you don't have as many trees, and it takes a while for those to happen. But yeah, we're always looking at ways we can provide greater cooling. And as I responded in that last question, we want people to be able to have the shade that they need in times like this. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
What about shelters? They're going to be open in a specific timing and for how long?
Yeah, in fact, what I just said, I'll let you talk about if you got times and different places. But yes, we're starting to open the cooling shelters now. But Mr. Gray, why don't you address it?
Thank you, sir. David Gray, Home Strategy Officer for the city. So the city's cooling shelters or cooling centers are predominantly library facilities and our park and recreation rec centers, and those are open during normal operational periods, which are usually until 8 or 9 p.m., which coincides with the hottest parts of the day. It's important to us to make sure that we're not releasing anybody from a cooling center at peak heat, and so we're grateful for our partner departments for keeping those facilities open. On days when those centers are usually scheduled to close early, like on a Friday, we have operational conversations, and we will likely extend the operating hours so that, again, people can find refuge during the hottest parts of the day. I also want to underscore that although we oftentimes talk about the cooling centers within the context of homelessness, these centers are open to any Austinite who needs access to them. So if you're a senior, if you're a family that's worried about running up your energy bill, if you lose power, and our power crews are working hard to restore your power, but you still need a safe place to go, we encourage you to log online either at austintexas.gov/alerts or austintexas.gov/homelessness, where you can find information, including up-to-the-date operating hours for all of our cooling centers. And to the question about pets, you are allowed to bring your pets into the cooling center with you, so please do not leave your pet at home, although most Austinites probably wouldn't do that anyway. But if you find yourself in need of a cool place to be, and you and your family want to come to a cooling center, you do not have to leave your dog, your cat, or whatever other pet you have back at home. Those pets are allowed to come in with you. But thank you for the question.
Just that we've got community centers. The county has a few of them around the county. They're generally outside of the city limits. But if people live in Del Valle, Manor, Jonestown, Oak Hill, Pflugerville, they're open during the day. And again, just like David said, anybody who wants to stay in there longer, we'll figure out a place for them to be. We're not going to kick someone out into the heat if they don't have a good place to go. But so much of this is done in partnership with the city of Austin for those shelters when we need them overnight or things like that, that we really work together on that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So heat means fire. Is there anything we should be aware regarding grass fires or anything? I know we had a pressure not so long ago, but the heat is different now. So is there anything you guys have to say?
We'll have the fire chief come up, but heat doesn't always mean fire.
Okay.
It can be hot without a fire, right?
Joel Baker, Austin Fire Chief, and the mayor's correct, heat doesn't always mean fire. But in this case, because it's so hot, that means the air is going to be so dry. So I want to just remind everyone to be cautious of open flame with the barbecue grills or throwing cigarette butts out. We shouldn't do it anyway because you're littering. But be careful because the increase of wildland fire is the potential danger is there. So I want to just caution everyone.
All right, last question. All right, we wore you out. It is hot in here. And I must admit, I'm not dressed the way I told everybody to dress. But in all seriousness, this is the reason we're doing this. The reason we're having this press opportunity is twofold. One is that Judge Brown and I said some time ago that we were going to do everything we could to communicate with the community when we had weather events, be they cold or be they hot. And this is one of those moments. So the second thing is, this is one of those moments where we really, really, really need to communicate, and we need to be vigilant. We're seeing this earlier, and we're seeing these extreme weather events more frequently. So that's why we're here. So warncentraltexas.org, warn, W-A-R-N, warncentraltexas.org. I really encourage everybody to please go sign up, get alerts so that you'll be as up to date as we can help you be. warncentraltexas.org. But thank you all for being here, and thanks for getting the message out. Take care.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate it.
All right, the conference has ended now, and we heard from several county and city of Austin leaders about the heat wave that we will be experiencing now and throughout the entire week in Central Texas. Some of the details that they added were, first of all, Mayor Kirk Watson mentioned summer is here. It is unwelcomed, unwanted, but it is here, and we need to be aware of all the precautions that we need to take. Some of those precautions that he mentioned were pre-hydration, wear sunscreen, continue to hydrate while you're out in the heat, wear light-colored clothing, loose-fitting clothing, and a hat, avoid outdoor activities throughout the day if you can, and look before you locking your vehicles to avoid heat stroke with either children or your pets. One thing that he did mention, one tip, was making sure that you leave an item that you know you're going to need when you exit your vehicle in the back seat. So that could be your phone, your purse, your wallet, anything like that. If you have a push to start car, your keys back there, that will remind you to look in the back seat and see whether there is a child or there is an animal. It does not take long for the car to heat up in this heat, so please be aware of that. Some resources that he provided are austintexas.gov/alerts to look for any of the addresses where the cooling centers that the county and the city provide are. He also mentioned that they will be extending the times that they are open. Pets are also allowed in these cooling centers, and usually they're at public libraries or some of the park and recreation centers that are being used as cooling centers. Another link was warncentraltexas.org. You can sign up for alerts as far as weather alerts, and also, again, as I mentioned, any cooling centers that will be open or extended on that website. We also heard from Travis County Judge Brown. He said out of season days like these are a new normal, and heat is a preventable risk. We can get through it by staying cool and hydrated and watching out for one another, preventing heat-related illness before it happens. He mentioned to be aware of your neighbors who don't have a lot of resources or maybe are older and are not aware of what type of heat we're going to be experiencing. Also, he mentioned when you go outside and you are walking your pet, make sure to put your hand on the asphalt to see if it's hot on your hand, it's hot on your pets, and you should probably not be walking them outside. Wait for cooler times of day, whether that's early in the morning or in the evening. We heard from other people in the county and the city. We will have all these details on our website, kxan.com, and as well as those links for anyone who would like to look at those links and see where the cooling centers are located. Thanks very much for joining us.